Hello everybody, my name's Adriana, you are watching Wolf Narwhal, and today I'm giving my final thoughts on the Transformers comic series More Than Meets the Eye and its sequel, Lost Light. So I originally started reading this series in spring of 2024, and on and off I've been reading this 52 issues of More Than Meets the Eye and 25 issues of Lost Light. Each issue's give or take 22 to 23 pages of comic, which is cool. Now obviously, if you've seen my videos, if not, welcome to my channel, but if you see my videos, I read a lot of chapter books, so this was a change for me in a way, just like trying out a new medium, because I love art and I love literature. So I read this series and I'm just going to say I am not disappointed at all. It's truly changed my life, and I hope if you give it a chance it can change yours too. So in this video I'm going to be explaining whether it's really a good idea to read the continuation 25 issues or if Lost Light really is just an optional part of the plot. So from the get-go, obviously it's like the ending of the story, so I guess I'll put it this way: if you want closure and you like learning more about the characters' stories, then read Lost Light. But if you only care about the plot, you don't need to read all of Lost Light, but I would just do it. So without further ado, let's get into this. I'm about to give you my thoughts on Transformers More Than Meets the Eye and Transformers Lost Light. So the first bit of this video will be no spoilers. Second bit, I will introduce spoilers for both. Alright, so starting off, More Than Meets the Eye, no spoilers. So from the get-go, the characters are very sympathetic and very lovable, and I could definitely tell the plot was very richly crafted. So obviously, since they're all mechanoids, it was kind of hard at first to memorize characters by their name and their look, but once you have them memorized, you legitimately cannot forget them. Unforgettable characters. Now let me tell you, that's also due to their sick character designs. Hello. Just for a few examples, just gonna put them on screen here. Absolute cinema. Now this might be a hot take, might not. I don't think there was a single boring issue of More Than Meets the Eye. Because with every TV show, every book, there's this chapter or this episode, they go off and do something completely random that does not make sense with the plot at all. Now, if we're talking the mission, which is to go see the Knights of Cybertron, which is basically the characters want to go off on a mission to find a solution to the tensions on their planet, they definitely have some side quests mission-wise, but that's kind of the whole point of the plot itself. So when I'm saying this, there wasn't deviation from the plot itself, but there was deviation from the mission itself by the plot. Now, I also loved how the characters were, in a sense, everyday people like you would meet in real life, just obviously space robot, war criminal form. Not all of them were war criminals, by the way, only like 10. But I also loved how it showed like, pre-war, their government was legitimately one of the most corrupt fictional governments I think I've ever seen. Think I'm joking? As a punishment for someone wanting to do what they want to do with their life, they legitimately gave them lobotomies. So, justice for my boy Shockwave. And Whirl, and Damus, the list keeps going. Now speaking of some of the questionable figures, I think the antagonists were really well written, and also legitimately terrifying. The things they enacted had to be some of the most emotionally moving things I think I've ever witnessed through visual stories. The plot twists, the backstories, the climax, and all the little character discrepancies along the way really just hit different. This whole story was not your traditional plot mountain. Legitimately shocking, some of the ways it deviated, but purposefully. So it wasn't slop in the slightest at any point. Also, the community is really engaging, the good side of it. But anyways, that's the non-spoiler section of the More Than Meets the Eye section of the video. Now, to the non-spoiler section of Lost Light. So first, to start off, I would like to mention, I think Lost Light was a fantastic continuation for More Than Meets the Eye. Now, as I stated earlier in the video, this section of the comic series is definitely a more social-heavy section. But also, as I mentioned, these are very lovable characters that I would say are worth a bit of social investment. Now, if you're in it for the more action-packed scenes like me, this could be a little boring, or so you'd think, but actually, I found myself enjoying it despite the lack of pure plot. In fact, I think it added to the plot. So, despite the fact that it wasn't the most to that section, I think it was definitely well worth reading. Now, it doesn't help that legitimately, IDW, the publishing label, cut the amount of issues allowed in half to tell the plot. So, because I didn't know this when I first started reading, they were only really funded for 400 issues of Transformers content in general. So instead of getting 50 more issues of Lost Light, they only got to do it in 25. So no matter what, the ending was kind of bound to feel a little tiny bit rushed, but I would say it was conquered very reasonably, and it wasn't bad. Also, I would like to say, I love the artists of More Than Meets the Eye, but Lost Light's art just hit different. The saturation, the shading, a breath of fresh air in the characters, and I don't know if that was intentional or not, but hats off. There was also less plot thrown in your face more than meets the eye, which was a good thing. That was the vibe of the first 57-ish issues. Yeah, that was definitely intentional. But I liked how they slowed down and delved more into making the characters themselves memorable instead of just the story. I also enjoyed how the ending was a real world ending. Now, a lot of people kind of hate on the ending. Honestly, I get some of the aspects I hate on it with, but also the time restraint. What? Like, you can't hate on someone for something they can't control. I think it made a lot of sense for this night and day emotions sort of series that it just flashes to the real world. You have to keep going on with life. Although you went on this cool mission, you gotta go back to your normal life. Because that's what we all have to do. There are always ends, but the fact that you can acknowledge them and acknowledge the good things that have happened and move forward with it is truly stronger than any little fantasy. Back to the grind. But overall, that's the end of the non-spoiler part of this review. Now to get into the spoilers. Now obviously I can't cover every single thought I have, or else I think this video would go on forever, but I'm going to cover up some main points that stuck out to me in thinking back through the series. So stick around if you've read it all. If not, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next video if I decide to make a next video. Now for spoilers. So starting off, more than meets the eye spoilers. First off, the villains were crazy. The Decepticon Justice Division, probably one of the most crazy, absolutely terrible fictional groups I've ever witnessed, ever. Don't even get me started on Overlord. Are we serious? Honestly, Tyrus, he was pretty chill, except he tried to kill off the population. And Pharma was okay, but he definitely pointed out some of the terrible things in modern healthcare. Get away. And Sunder was pure nightmare fuel. Freud was ew. Just kidding, if anyone's a Freud fan, peace to you, brother, but what are you doing? He was just up. That was his purpose. So if you like characters like that, sure, whatever. I don't. And legitimately, there were so many little tiny sub-villains and stuff. So I most definitely just missed out on a major one. But, ooh, I really did like how Brainstorm was, he wasn't a villain. He didn't want to be an antagonist, but he had a secret little dark side to try and time travel to get his huz back. So, now I would like to say, although Getaway, if you're watching this section of the video, you probably, like, this is a section dedicated towards my thoughts to people who have already read it. So I'm not gonna go through the whole plot, because that'd be boring. You already know the plot. But personally, I think he made some good points as to the fact that Megatron should not, in the slightest, be a captain of a starship meant to do something crazy awesome and crazy influential towards the whole race. If he literally had just caused a millions of year-long war and employed Shockwave and the Decepticon Justice Division and the Phase Sixers, I still just don't think he should have been given such a willing second chance. I think he should have had to work for it at least a little more. And I'm glad James Roberts, the writer of the series, realized that too and gave us some mutiny, but also not good people. I also feel like I would like to point out there should be some justice for Pipes and Rewind. Are we dead right now? Because they are. And they should not be. Well, technically Rewind isn't dead. He just teleported from a different universe in which the rest of the crew died, so it canceled out. But, well, actually not a different ship in the same universe that should not be there because that's not a canon thing. Also, one final main point, because this is just the general points I believe I should make really quick. Skids should not have been used as fodder at the end. There was no point in that. There really was not. And I get that he's the good guy character, but come on. I don't think he deserved to... Alright, I said it. Also, I'm just gonna list some of my favorite characters. Nautica, Velocity, Chrome Dome, Brainstorm, Perceptor, Rodimus, Tailgate, Cyclonus, I guess. Whirl. Wait, am I just listing the whole character group? The whole cast? Aside from the terrible villains that are crazy? Maybe. Those characters are freaking awesome. Especially Brainstorm. Alright, on to my points on Lost Light. So, I see a lot of people saying, oh, Nautica should not have lost her memory of Skids to try and get him back. But, personally, I liked her single diva moment. So Nautica, I'm gonna be honest, saying so Nautica sounds like Subnautica, which is awesome, but ignore I said that, what the heck. She is probably one of my favorite female characters. OAT, alright, because not only do I think she deserves to forget Skids, but also I think doing so legitimately in the plot helped the characters go to victory. So if Skids lived, I definitely would not want what happened in the plot to her about forgetting him to happen. But because he's gone, because he decided to sacrifice himself, I don't think it should be up to Nautica to bear the weight of his actions. I love her, and I think she deserves the best. Love you, Nautica! I also feel like Nautica and Brainstorm's friendship was really cute and awesome, because I'm just so tired of seeing two characters that are similar being both having lost their significant other get together. That's just one of my least favorite tropes of all time. So I'm glad that they were literally just besties and just chilled and supported each other. That is very nice in my personal, professional, and humble opinion. Nautica X Brainstorm fans, I respect you. I understand you, but I do not agree with you in my heart. I think they're epic besties, but respect. Alright, I would also like to point out how in Lost Light, the girl characters had a lot more significance plot-wise, because there were more of them. So Transformers, I'll give this a rundown, despite this section being for people who already know this. Technically, it's just a social thing that they all are male, and so on Caminus, which is my sister, no pun intended, planet, they're all girls, because that's what they socially decided at the foundation of their planet. And so it's just cool to see how some characters deal with that. Wait, this is all just social in our universe. But it's really just cool to see Nautica, Velocity, Anode, Lug. Also, Anode's so cool. I know what that is. Chem on top. But anyways. But Chromia, Windblade. I think all the girl characters, I'm just so glad that they aren't just seen as romantic plot devices. I absolutely despise things that use girl characters like that. Hello? They're real characters. So I think it was really awesome to see them put their foot down and not take any of the bullcrap. Phenomenal, Lost Light. Also, I think the guiding hand being characters we already knew was a cool plot twist, but also, I don't know if it really fit in a way. I feel like it should have been a little different, but also the series is known for being very, that's random, that's crazy, something wild just was revealed that literally no one thought of. But the fact that Rung was the main Sigma, what the heck? Alright. Also, I kind of missed my favorite weirdos, high-key. The DJD, but obviously at the end of More Than Meets the Eye, they met their fate, so rest in peace, my terrible crazies. Now, I am completely happy that Getaway got what he deserved, which was denial and an end, because he did some terrible, crazy, actually devastating things to innocent characters, just like Megatron did. But you don't do what the person you're trying to stop did. That defeats the whole purpose of trying to stop someone evil. Getaway. Also, I know Ratchet had a terminal illness, but I feel like the last issue being his funeral, uncalled for. They went to a moon that was the medical station of all medical stations that has pretty much a cure to any robot disease, and he still ended up dying. Disrespect. But amazing story. Overall, I still loved how the conclusion was characters like them getting a duplicate ship in another universe so they can just continue their story forever. That's perfect fan material because people literally just spring off with their stories, whatever they want. It's an open-ended conclusion while simultaneously having a real world conclusion. So I just hope someday, this definitely is probably not going to happen because it was a huge series in general, but I hope someday maybe there's a continuation of it, or like a TV show even. Please! But overall, More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light, completely life-changing, completely amazing to read. And overall, 10 out of 10 comic series. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you in my next video if I decide to make a next video. Bye!